Fox News chief political analyst Brit Hume. Brit, good evening. You know, a lot of back and forth about whether this bill is going to increase the deficit, whether it's going to, what it's going to do with taxes. The bottom line is that 68% would see tax increases. That does get lost in the picture sometimes when you're talking about the estimates.
Yeah, the reason that the deficit numbers look so much better without this bill is that there is built into current law a very large tax increase set to take effect at the end of this year. Now, it isn't because current law has a lot of spending restraint in it. It doesn't. In fact, there's more spending restraint in this bill than there is in current law. But there's this huge tax increase set to take effect, and it would, hit every household that pays federal income taxes pretty hard if it were to go into effect. And a lot of people think that would negate a lot of growth that would be beneficial to the economy and obviously and to tax receipts. So it gets kind of circular, but that's what this is really all about, a potential big tax increase.
The other thing that gets talked about a lot is the effect on Medicaid. Here's Senator Lindsey Graham.
Here's what we're doing when it comes to Medicaid. It's grown 50% in 5 years. It's about to take over Medicare. What we've done is we limited the growth of Medicaid to 6% for 2 years. After that, 4% growth. We haven't cut Medicaid. We've reduced the growth.
So, Britt, it is about, this is a Washington thing. A cut is a cut in the expansion of the growth.
Yeah, that's right, and that's been Washington budget speak for a long time, that if you hold spending below the projected rate of increase, even though it's an actual increase, that's considered a cut, and that's been true in budget speak for a long time. Republicans have tried to resist it, but the word cut, as I think most people understand it, Brett, means something is lower than its current level, and that's not the case here. As Senator Graham is correct to point out, that Medicaid spending would actually go up under this bill. It just wouldn't go up as fast as it's been growing, and it has been growing very fast and is one of the main drivers of the deficit spending that everybody pretends to decry.
The other thing that's not in this bill or factored into any of these calculations are the tariff, what's coming from the tariffs. The White House, other economic analysts say it's $121 billion since the start of the fiscal year, up about 270%. That is not factored into this or the CBO estimates. So one would think that the president's going to make that case.
Oh, he'll make that case. And the other thing, Brett, is that the CBO tries, but it doesn't do a very good job of counting the effect, the growth effect of restraining federal income taxes. Tax cuts and lower taxes help the economy, and when the economy grows, tax receipts grow, and that is something, and that is without raising the income tax rate. It's in fact an effect of lowering them. So the CBO estimates, that's what Congress has to go by, but they have been off base many times before. And people should keep that in mind as they consider the effects of this bill.
I wanted to get some of those things, fact-checked about how they're being talked about. But this is a big development politically. Elon Musk, just at the beginning of this show, tweeting out, if this insane spending bill passes, the America Party will be formed the next day. Our country needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican uniparty so that the people actually have a voice. He's threatened that before. It seems like he's moving forward with it.
Well, one of the things that's in this bill is there's subsidies for the kind of energy that Elon Musk is promoting, and his businesses might take a hit from that. The subsidies are reduced. So, I think we have to take Elon, as much as we all may admire him, with a grain of salt on this stuff.
Britt, as always, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.